we'll review some of the activities of the major stories that made headlines this year. And, of course, not without looking at what's currently making headline today. Well, we are joined now by Captain Aliyu Umar. He's a retired Army captain. We'll be talking security, of course, when he joins us. We always do that. Thank you for coming on this morning again today.
Thank you, Jambolen. Good morning.
Well. What do we have here? We've got another or two major scenarios, unfortunate ones. You know, some time ago, you had lots of people who thought maybe we have this security situation under control. You know the famous phrase they use, we're on top of all of this, but then you had Bama, and then you have the attack on an army base, and this time we understand that it was very, very serious. But the figures, the casualties, I guess it's always controversial. But what's your perception or perspective on these latest ones?
Well, let's talk about the last two. The last two, my perception here is it's not encouraging at all. And to underscore my position that things are not encouraging, let's do a post-mortem of these two incidents. The one that involved the Air Force Base a while ago, and then this latest one where we hear women and children have also been taken away or taken, hostage by the terrorists. At this stage of our journey in the state of emergency, I think attacks on military locations should be a thing of the past. We've had enough incidents to act as lessons, except if we're not learning or someone is not thinking somewhere. We saw Jaji, we saw Kaduna, sometime we had attacks in Abuja. There have been enough attacks on military locations to make the ones that have occurred in the very hub of activity very unencouraging. Okay. Having said that, the nature of the attacks itself, daunting and discouraging as they seem to be, were also, belated wake-up calls. We should have seen beyond what happened.
Although there have been several. I mean, one
Yes,
wonders,
indeed.
could it be? I mean, by now, one would think that the military authorities would have known that perhaps within us, we may have moles.
That's
because how do they always attack and catch them?
No,
hands down?
it's not about moles alone. Moles, spies, informants, those are the facts of every scenario that has this kind of background. Military operations, even within the polity, there are spies, there are moles. You cannot have a zero returns on that, but you can manage them. They can manage them properly. That's not the issue. If we look, let's do a prognosis here, or rather a post-mortem. Look at the attacks and let's enter it properly.
Yeah.
For a military location within the hub of activity of the terrorists to come under attack for 5 hours, the first attack where the aircraft were burnt, 5 hours, it tells a lot of story. It tells, there are a lot of pointers. First and foremost, one will want to wonder what happened to early warning systems. What happened to early warning intrusion detection systems? Are there any in place? And if there are none, what are we doing about it? If I should explain that to the layman, beyond the perimeters of those military locations, what distance, what radius acts as a buffer, the violation of which should bring the troops out? Is there any such thing?
Yeah,
and if there isn't, what are we doing about it?
Even if they were not able to get intelligence about the attack, but for 5 hours, the first hour, the second, the third, the fourth, up until the 5th hour where they attacked, they could not have been repelled.
Yes, those are
Raises
pointers.
a lot of questions.
Those are pointers. How would 500 people in vehicles and motorcycles move over a distance undetected within an area where there is a state of emergency? Those are concerns.
Could this mean that if we're going to attack them for as much as 5 hours, could this suggest that the attackers, know the capacity
Chamberlain,
of the military?
they are thinking. Don't ever underestimate that. They, the terrorists, are thinking, and we have to begin to think. You see, Albert Einstein put it aptly. You cannot solve a problem on the same level with that problem. You have to go a step above the problem to solve it.
Are you implying that all the efforts that have been put in place so far, they've not moved beyond the level of the terrorists?
We have to up our game. Look, terrorism is formless. They've gone from bombs to something else. You cannot sit down using indicators. Okay, Shekau is purported to be dead. Indicators on ground probably underscore that they are not throwing bombs anymore. So what? We live happily ever after. There is no such thing. The African proverb says, when a cricket falls silent, it is digging. So when you see people that are usually vibrant and aggressive falling silent, we shouldn't just go home and think we'll live happily ever after. We should be expecting a party.
The last attack, with the one on in Bama, on the army barracks, the reports have it that they came in from the borders. The last time we talked about this, we talked about the fact that Borno not being too far from Chad,
Banji,
Cameroon, that border,
exactly.
It is such that something needs to be done about the borders. Some reporters were taken to Borno, and they went to one of those villages close to the Chad border, which is just about 6 kilometers from the Chad, and they were taken to the camp that was sacked by the army then. If these people are still able to come in from the borders, does that mean nothing has been done about this?
Well, not that nothing has been done, but what we seem to be missing here is, within the scenario, when we are attacked, okay, we cannot do everything about the situation, but we can be on top of the game. Let me give you an example. What is happening right now is a trend. We see a situation where attacks are made, statements are released, we are giving assurances, they are being pursued, then curfews are declared, people have to stay indoors, and after a while things relax, then another attack. We see that same cycle of action. So
Come in a pattern.
So if you were to log it down, you see a trend in our own reaction. I won't call it response. In our own reaction